When it comes to characters' backstories, it's pretty much just Depression City. It's just look at from Noe to the number of characters like Astolfo who just have blown me away by how depressing their lives actually were. And the way it makes it so depressing is there's always like a glimmer of happiness before the depression hits. It's not just like suffering, big suffering. It's like there's something in the middle there that makes the end result all the more painful. And to get more into our boy's backstory, especially considering that they like casually drop a brother with last week's episode, right? And the idea of the true vampire of the Blue Moon, the one that Vanitas actually took the name of, and the idea of how they got control of the books and, you know, the previous experiments. There's so many different things to tie together in this backstory. And while we didn't, I'd say, completely finish it, I think if I was a betting man, probably about 80% of what we needed to see, we probably saw. But the end result that made this little brother so curious and spiteful against what once was a loving relationship, that's only going to happen if Noe sucks his blood. And that feels very much like what they're building up to. But to see the moments of having this vampire act as that parental figure that they desperately needed and wanted, and to see the difference in the brothers when it comes to dying moments. One, wanting to stay with them forever. They make me a member of your clan and we can be together forever. Where you have the complete opposite reaction. Even if I was to die tomorrow, I would never want to lose what it is to be human, essentially. And to see that bickering and that hostility from essentially being saved from the most scummiest of scientists who more values the kind of progression of his inventions and his experiments than he does about the lives of who should be innocent kids who shouldn't be experimented on to begin with. And to see that moment of kind of like retreat and how immediately after realizing who this is, the knife attack and then the blue blood, and just to see how fearful yet cautious he was that entire time, to then how they so casually ease into something that reminded me of Ranking of Kings. Anyone who's seen Ranking of Kings will remember the Despa scene when Boji decided to cook and the monstrosity that he ended up making. I had the exact same feelings with the true vampire of the Blue Moon here. When they were serving, I don't even know. Like, I'm firmly convinced that would have killed them. I don't think anyone can convince me otherwise. That is beyond food poisoning. The fact that milk was black sludge, you can't trust that shit. Even though it wasn't on purpose, like, to see that casual, like, after a night of crying and opening up, to then have him take over, clean up the place, and actually create something that's full of nutrition. Like, it was so great to see that build up because it starts in such a horrifying and depressing manner. You have experimentation, him trying to take on the burden so this little kid can just not have to suffer. I'll be your experiment, and then just to see how twisted, like, there's so many shots that, in general, this man looks creepy. But then when he gets really into his experimentation, it's a different level of danger. And the idea that even after all the, like, working with willingly, to then just strap them into a chair because you can't activate the book, so we're gonna slowly but surely infect you with the blood, and we're gonna try to turn you into a creature that can harness this power. Like, it is just so messed up, and to see the true one pop up at the end being like, what a foolish experiment, and then actually helping kids who ask for their help. And to see that opening up scene about learning about the mother dying at birth and what the father had to go through, getting a very quick snippet of the father's death and how much guilt he is carrying with that, and to just bawl his eyes out after feeling so vulnerable for so long, to enter a new stage of vulnerability where he doesn't have to lash out and try to kill or be on the guard to keep his health in order. He can just cry and have a parental figure listen, and to then transition into that cute and comfy kind of like cooking scene, and then the moments of just like seeing them in all these different situations, training, studying, being a family, then just realizing that someday your blood is going to take over and you're going to be too far on one side or the other. Right now you're balancing between humanity and vampirism, and ultimately when it catches up to you and it goes two into one way, I mean, you're probably going to end up dead. And we can see with the brother, right? So it's kind of starting to put into perspective the health issues that we've been seeing with him, because it seemed to me specifically that the more he used the book, the more something was happening. I was thinking like his lifespan was being drained. Like maybe it's something like he has to use part of his life force to use it. But now it seems like what's happening is that the more he uses the book, the more he's being pushed. The needle is moving more towards maybe the vampirism side that's in his blood. And once it reaches a certain point, I mean, he's probably going to lose control. And I think that might go hand in hand with what we heard in, I believe it was the very first episode of Core 1, about how Noe is going to have to kill him someday. Maybe that's because he's going to use the book too much and ultimately not be human anymore. And he's going to ask for him to kill him because he wants to die human rather than dying like a vampire or something like that. That just kind of seems like how they're building it up. But if they needed to hit us to like these characters even more and to sell us on the brother and just, yeah, there's still that mystery of what truly led this separation, and I feel like it's going to have something to do with Vanitas killing the true vampire or something in that nature. Time will tell for sure, but I mean, it's crazy for sure. It's absolutely mind-blowing, and I am so interested to see where they're going to take it from here after having one of my favorite visually directed episodes, especially with that gothic horror aesthetic in the flashback, especially when the father was being killed before his eyes. I mean, it's kind of crazy because I truly thought that with the final arc of whatever they're going to show us, because when we had the initial arc that lasted like 8 episodes, give or take, I thought for sure that they would ease into something more simple for a finale, just because typically if you're going to have that big of an explosive arc, you're not going to try to top yourself immediately, especially if you're catching up so close to the manga. But the fact that they actually can adapt the last big arc that has been completed seemingly, and just carry on with the same type of themes and storytelling approaches, it's crazy how much better Core 2 really has become. Like, the first Core was great, don't get me wrong, but like I've said in previous videos, it's more of a setup Core. And to see the maturity, the more serious subject matter, the fact that they have a much better balancing act between the cute and comfy and the absolute heartbreaking and horrifying. I mean, look at the scene after the crying scene, right? You know, the basically in the morning after, he's hiding under the covers. Forget everything you told me. What do you want me to forget? From the beginning of the day or when you bawled your eyes out? That's natural comedy that fits for what just happened post-emotional scene. It's not like they're just throwing that at, you know, after they almost got killed from experimentation, right? This Core just feels like a better balancing act overall, while showing us the best that the show has to offer. And truth be told, I wouldn't change a single thing about Core 2 with what I've seen so far. We got a little bit of this anime left. It'll be interesting to see if we'll ever get a season 3 down the line, years when they have more material to work with. But nonetheless, whatever they show me by the time this wraps up, I'm glad to have experienced this in the anime form. It's damn impressive for sure, but thoughts if you have any on this latest episode, what do you hope to see maybe with next week's episode? Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. Until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.